Hey, Dealy Boppers, what's going on? So, I just made Indigo laugh very much starting the live stream. As you probably know if you've been watching my channel, this week we're doing an event called YouTube Blackout, which was the hashtag which my friend Haley, who I spoke with a couple of days ago, came up with, where we're encouraging all non-black YouTubers to basically reach out to black people in their lives to help give them a platform, since they have that privilege and that platform, to be able to voice what they need to voice about everything that's going on right now, to kind of help with the healing and the cathartic process of getting that out, as well as hopefully helping with just spreading awareness of everything that's going on, because these are the voices that need to be heard. So this is Indigo, who you probably know from several of my other YouTube videos, if you pay attention.
You moved me from movies from... No, I'm just kidding.
She performed with me in the Vagina Monologues and was also present on a panel with me early this year, and also another panel with Chris and Britt and Devin. It was a non-binary panel that I more recently uploaded. Was that it?
Yeah, there was
Vagina Monologues,
the non-binary panel, then the trans women, the color panel, and then the trans women panel. Or there's just the trans.
Well, I haven't uploaded that one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Whoops.
They're coming slowly. Surprise! There's another panel that's going to be coming.
Surprise! Oh, okay. Sorry.
So basically, what I wanted to do is just, to be able to for once, it's like, I've always wanted to use my channel as a platform to uplift as many voices as I could. The focus was originally on lifting up other transgender voices, which, you of course also count as. But in light of everything, I'm not just someone who fights for the rights of transgender people. I am an advocate for social justice for all marginalized people. So when things are as bad as they are right now, I feel like it's just so important to uplift the black voices as the voices which need to be heard. So without any further ado, Indigo, I just wanted to give you a chance to be able to use my platform tonight to say what you need to say about how you feel about everything that's going on in the country right now, as far as just the overall state of anti-blackness, the recent events, how that's making you feel, how you're coping, what kind of advice you have for other black people trying to cope.
Yeah.
If you have any other perspective on it, as specifically as a demigender trans person who is also black, that, we'd love to hear any of that. And really just what you feel like people with the privilege of not being black need to hear as well. There's no time limit on this. There's no time that you have to fill in this. It's for you to let you have a choice to voice what you need to say. That's there may end up being questions in the chat, which is why I have this laptop right here. If you do have questions for Indigo, you are welcome to put them in the chat. Indigo is demigender. She does use she, her pronouns. And we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay. So do you want me to just start off with the intro? Discuss that one?
Yeah, it's your spot.
So my name is Indigo Lett, and I am a 31-year-old demigender trans woman. So that means that so demigender, I think a lot of people they've heard of the different non-binary, but they probably never focused on what demigender is. So Delia here is a binary trans woman. Now we have a friend named Devin who's agender. And so demigender is actually in between both just the binary and not having any affiliated gender. So you're it's kind of like being gender fluid, but just instead of being between the binary, in that case, it's more like some days I'll feel more feminine and I'll feel, like girl or in that way. But then some days I'm just like, there's just not much gender there, at all. So you kind of play between both. Not play, but you go in between both and how you feel. And so then the thing that got me to know that I was the new gender was when Devin actually was doing the non-binary speech at the Lambda Coalition. The one thing that they said was that even though you're non-binary, you can still transition, or you can still use what you call it? You can still do HRT, which for me, for whatever reason, I thought non-binary people did not do HRT. I thought it was just a binary thing. I didn't know. I thought, oh, non-binary people, they don't do that. They just figure out who they are and then they just go. But yeah, there's if you're non-binary, you can. If you are non-binary, whatever, you can take hormones, either testosterone or estrogen in my case, which I'm at my 4th month. So, it's for me, it's a really good moment to start your journey and on that and on the HRT part. Obviously, we've always been on the journey, but now it's like the steps are you start to see, how your body's developing and where you're going and how you're feeling every day with the pills and with the estrogen and spirals. So I guess if we're going to talk about the beginning of it, I guess the first shootings, or the first 2 shootings, and then the Dallas shooting. So for me, after the first 2 shootings, I had a moment of like, for the first time I think in my life. I mean, it's always been a situation where you see somebody get shot and killed, you see somebody, and you grieve, with the situation, no matter who it was, and especially with black people. It just feels like it's happened so often that you even as a black person, you start to become desensitized to it because you're like, this is happening again and again and again. And, but for whatever reason, this time around, when the guy in Baton Rouge got killed, and then, we were just grieving over that, and I think the day later or the next day, or 2 days later, the guy in Minnesota got killed. I later on watched the videos. I don't know why I did that, but I did. I just wanted to see, what exactly happened, and especially with the second one, it was just so traumatizing to see, somebody actually follow the law, somebody following the law through and through, and still get shot and killed. And for me, that, it just proved to me that, no matter, how good you are, how much you're following the rule of law, there's still that chance, or there's still that, it's still that opportunity or chance for the police officer or whomever, vigilante or, citizen to kill you, and it's just upsetting to see that because, it just feels like as a black person, you have to hold yourself back. You can't be as free as your other people, even other people of color, but definitely the same as your fellow, as white people. So I think one thing Haley said was she let her kids, be free at that age. Like I don't know how old they're, like 2 and 4, whatever the ages they are. She lets them just roam free and let them enjoy life like that. Because when I was young, in the early '90s, I think around about 8 to 10 years old, my parents sat me down and they were, this was like a little bit right after the LA riots. So we watched what happened to Rodney King, and then my parents were already scared about that, and then I'm guessing they looked at me and were like, we gotta give, our child the talk. And it's not the birds and the bees, that talk came a little later, but it was, the talk about being black in America. And that conversation, was stunning to me because, I went to a private school as an elementary school kid, and it was a magnet school. I don't know if you know what that means, but it's just another name for a private school. And so the majority of the kids there were white. I had a few black friends there, but even if that, it just still felt like everybody was together. There was not this racist issue in the school with that kid, because we're kids. So, we're like, hey, let's go play with this person, let's play with that person. So I didn't see that. I didn't, I was kind of enclosed off from that. So when my parents told me that, there's people who will look at you funny. There's people who will, follow you in the store. There's people who, and that's happened to me twice, a few times actually, where, you get asked a question about, hey, you're in the store, hey, can I help you with something or whatever. And then, you walk around a little bit, maybe like 2 or 3 minutes, and then they come back again, and then you're like, okay, well, I kind of understand it, whatever. And then they come back a third time, or, maybe in your peripheral vision, they're like in the same like area you are in, like you might be in the men's section or the women's section or whatever, and they're kind of like shadowing you in a way. And so, that type of, feeling kind of hurts you, because you're like, I'm just here to shop. I'm just here to be, just a normal patron of your store, and you're following me thinking I'm going to do something. So, my parents were teaching me about stuff like that, about how you got to act a certain way around white people. You got to, don't do this, don't do this, don't do that. Like, don't bring something in the store if you have it back, even if it was like a small little thing. Don't bring that in. Keep it in the car. Keep it wherever you were at, because people think you're going to do something. Smile. Don't look so mean. It was stuff like that. Like, it was. And my parents gave me list after list of stuff that it was very as an 8 to 10-year-old, it was very complicated to really sit down and have to be like, well, I don't act like that with my friends at school. Why do I have to act like that out of school, outside of school? And then as I got older, you come to learn that, like, yes, people will look at you differently, they will treat you differently. They, little microaggressions. That's what you start to pick up first. You start to pick up those little things, and you try to play it off, but it does hurt you a bit, and then you try to even some black people, even though they want to admit it, they go along with it, and just to keep the friendship going, just to keep, not to be that black person, not to be that person who's always the angry one or the one that's got to get offended by something, like kind of early, I guess early SJW type of situation where you're always combating something because somebody's always saying something offensive, which they were, but you try to keep the friendships together, with your white friends, with your other friends of color, and even some of your black friends who maybe said stuff. And so, I've seen many times where black people will make them, and I've done it myself, you make the butt of jokes on you, almost an internalized racism way, to make everybody laugh in the room and make them feel more comfortable about you being in that room, especially if you're the token one. So it's a very difficult thing to have to do all that and try to just, just scale through life like that, trying to figure out, how free can I do, how much freedom do I have in this situation? Can I be all the way me, or do I have to be half of me? Do I have to code switch here, or do I, So those questions come up a lot of the times when you're black, and I think other people of color do that too. I mean, I can see, Asian people doing with that, probably Latinx, definitely Muslim, I can see that, and Arabic as well. So just a little bit, yeah. So, but when I saw the shootings, it just, for me, it hurt me to my heart. Like, it got me to the point where, and for me as a black trans woman, it really affected me in more intersection, because one of the reasons I feel like, and that's not just the black community, I think it's other communities as well, when you see like people don't stand up for queer people in their communities, is because, especially with black people, or probably Latinx as well, like, they're still fighting racism. You're still fighting. I could see kind of from their point of view why they may not be so down with queer issues yet. Like they're not understanding of it yet. And I think the reason for that is because you're still facing being shot by the cops. You're still facing, microaggressions. You're still facing, economic and institutionalized racism that, affects your daily life. It's kind of hard to go from that to like somebody who's, maybe a little, well, different maybe than you, right? Different than cis, and then try to help them out at the same time, trying to help yourself out, and you're kind of in between. And that's what's great to have someone like Haley, who, is bisexual, because she's kind of in that middle where she can kind of help. She's on both sides, I think myself included. And so it's great to have people who, are in both in both sides, on the cis side and on the queer side. And but the thing I would tell the cis people is like, you can do both. You can definitely help. You can fight the racism. You can fight, in all its forms, and at the same time, you can help queer people out, and with their issues and what they're going on. Because I think I said this at a panel a while back. I'm like, it's all for one and one for all. It's the Three Musketeers type of saying. I mean, I know, ironically, Alexander Dumas himself is biracial, but the point is though, I learned that from Django, which was funny. So I was like, thank you, Leonardo DiCaprio, for teaching me that lesson.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a part in the movie, right before the big shootout part. Yeah, so, when you fight for one cause, you're fighting for all the causes. And so when you're fighting for queer folk, like us, you're helping us out, and then in turn, we're going to help you out. You know what I mean? Like it's a combination, not combination, but it's a thing where, if you lend your hand out for somebody to help, they're going to feel more empowered to help you in return. And a lot of people don't understand it. I think with the kind of like the All Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter thing, I think what they don't understand is once you help Black Lives Matter, Black lives will help white lives and everybody else. And so, it's not like we're better than you and we want to have more advances than you. No, Black people in this country just want the opportunity to succeed in this country. That's all we want. We want the same opportunity that was given to white people, but we're not getting it because of all the institutionalized racism and the things we deal with on a daily basis. So, so when you see those two shootings, it's kind of a microcosm of that trying to, once again, be law-abiding citizens and sell CDs, or, you have to still carry on, or you're walking down the street with a thing of Skittles and iced tea, or, you're playing loud music, even though that guy got arrested and he got put in jail. But, other situations where people get off.
But still, like, I mean,
yeah.
I think a white person I don't think a white person get arrested and put in jail for that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, the Jordan Davis one was the only one I can remember where the guy, the kids were playing loud music, and it was in Florida, it was like Central Florida somewhere, and the old man at the gas station was like, "Hey, turn the music down," and they didn't turn the music down, so he went back to his glove department, got his gun, and started shooting at him, and killed Jordan Davis in the car, and while they drove off, and then they went back to their hotel for pizza. So it was just like, him and his wife or whatever. That case happened about 2 years ago. I want to say like right after Trayvon. So
I didn't even like it.
Yeah, but that situation, they tried the case and the guy got put in jail. So that was like the one situation where, because it was so blatant that even the jury was like, yeah, we got there's no, we can't, even your jury, even your peers have got to put you in jail for that.
I know a couple of technical things with it. I'm sorry, I think I misheard part of the.
Oh, it's okay.
But,
oh wait, so wait.
No.
Oh, the technical part. Oh, so we're still on. Okay.
No, yeah, we're still on. I'm just managing things.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so it's just, I mean, for us to come together is brilliant and it's awesome. It's just the fact that, and I see a lot of memes that say, I'm tired of this, I'm tired of that, I'm tired of the cops getting shot too and everything. But it's like, it might sound controversial to say this, but one leads to the other. it's not like black people are like looking for cops and to shoot. Like you don't want to get in that type of trouble. You know what I'm saying? Like that's, I mean, the guy who did the Dallas thing, the main thing his anger was about was he was seeing people, his own people getting shot and killed in these situations. And I do not condone what he did. I really don't. I mean, don't shoot at the cops. You know what I'm saying? Like don't shoot at them. Don't fire at them. You know, if you're gonna fire anything, fire words. You know what I'm saying? And even that gets you, gets you some situations. But don't shoot at the cops. Don't try to do that. Like the one thing, you can do is, maybe fight the sheriff or whatever. Maybe vote him out, or other politicians who support that sheriff, or even the people who are part of the lawyers and all that work with them every day. Get them out. You know what I'm saying? There's other ways to make sure that your community is safe, or like for example, you could ask for police to actually live in the communities that they patrol. A lot of times I remember, because a lot of the older people tell me like this even with the racism that was going on back then, it wasn't, the police weren't as bad as it is now. And that surprises me. I thought, well, they should be, you would think it would be just as bad, but no, actually, they were saying like the police lived in our communities, especially like in New York and the more urban areas, urban cities, and they lived in there. They talked to the kids, they talked to the people in the community. So when you saw that kid, you saw that kid got in trouble. Instead of going over there and rolling up on him like Tamir Rice and shooting them in 2 seconds, you'd roll up on the kid and go like, "Hey, what you doing? What's going on? Is that a BB gun? Okay." And then you make sure if a kid gets in trouble, you don't know the kid because you're living in the suburbs and they're living in the urban city. So when you come in, you don't know who this is, right? And you think they're a danger because of all the media, how they portray us, And so when you live in the community and you know the community, it's easier to look at the kids and they grow up. You see them grow up, you see them go through their trials and tribulations, and you can help them out maybe with homework or whatever it is. But, you see them grow up before your very eyes. And so when they start to stray a bit, they lean on you, They'll be like, "Hey, I need some help," or you come to them and be like, "Look, I saw you're about to do that. Don't do that." You know what I'm saying? That's a bad idea. Don't do that. And you come through and you have that more interpersonal relationship with them. And so now you're able to counsel them, help them more before you get to the arrest point, or before you get rough and all that stuff. You can talk with them more. They know you. But when you come out of town or you come outside the areas they live in, they don't respect you. They don't know you. And so it's harder to engage the police because there's the fear on both sides. But the fear on the black side is more warranted to me because it's more historical. It wasn't this long history of black people shooting cops in the 1920s. Saying that was Al Capone and them. But, and that was over alcohol. That's a whole nother conversation. But about drug war and stuff like that. But, and that's part and parcel of the issue. The problem is the drug war. But when it comes to just black people being scared of white people, black people being scared of like police officers, and just, fear for our lives because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and so we get taught these things by our parents. We get taught these things by our parents to fear you, to literally fear you, to a certain extent, and not try to rock the boat anywhere, not try to, do anything that's, out of line because we feel like we might get in trouble. Whereas you see with some white kids, they can kind of go out a little bit of that bounds, and then they get pulled back in, or get told, like, "Hey, don't do that." But when we do something like that, it's like, it's not only just rebellious, but it's like borderline, like terrible. When all it would take sometimes is just like sit down with the kid and go, "Hey, look, this is wrong. Don't do that. This is what you should do in this situation." But instead they get shot or they get, arrested for something that maybe a talking to or something like that would be much easier. So I just think it takes, not just a dialogue on both sides, but I think it takes also from the police, it takes on their part to check themselves. I know they have a union, I know they, um, they're unionized and stuff, but sometimes it's good to call out your own, because I know you see them. I know you see, in police officers and military and people like that, they're regular, the job environment is kind of like a job environment in any job environment. There's people who are brown nosers, there's people who are goody two shoes, there's people who are hard workers and they'll do anything, and like me, you get to the point where your kindness is taken for weakness, and there's people in there. And then, you have that person in the back, maybe not in the back, but who's a bit of a dick, who may be a little bit of a white supremacist, and I mean, there's signs there that you see. I know you see as a cop, you see those signs, and you don't take it upon yourself to call that person out. And so I can see where Catherine can kind of say all cops are bad, because there's cops, you see that, and I know there has been cops who called out people and they've gotten fired for it.
They're not cops
They're
anymore.
they're not cops anymore, and they're gone. And so I really respect those people who've done that. I think there was somebody posted something on Facebook. It was like a list. It's like 16 of them, like women and men. It was you? Okay, see, there you go. No, but but yeah, you didn't see that. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so you post something, you post that, and it was just amazing to see, because there are people calling out people, and they don't last. Similar to politicians call out people, the ones that actually do. So they don't last, right? So, and it sucks, because you would hope that those people should be the people that protect and serve, rather than the people that they left behind, that fired them. So, it's just, it takes a bit of understanding to try to really empathize with, just empathize with somebody who's not you. Just to take a step back and look at, why are these people yelling so much? Why are these people, having this movement? Why are these people, trying to speak about their issues so much? What has happened in the past that has made them get to this point? And so once you start doing that, I think especially as a white person, you become uneasy, because a lot of times it's so easy to go like, well, they're all bad, or they're, I see some of the cases, but I don't, understand this situation or that. And like, it's, you have to take that step back and realize, these people are yelling and screaming, for a specific reason. And then all it is really is just like, stop killing us. That's it. Just stop killing us. And it just, and so I think when you start to look at the history of things, it does become uneasy. And I think I told CJ this a while back, and CJ thought this was inspiring, whatever. But whatever. Jazz hands. No, but what he thought I said, I think it was a trans women panel, which was, just being uneasy about the situation for me is the beginning point, is a start. Because a lot of people, they don't feel uneasy. There's no, there's no remorse. There's no like, not white guilt, but like a white understanding. Like, okay, white acknowledgement. That's what I'm gonna say. Like, it's just like, whoa, wait a minute. Okay, I'm seeing these situations happen again and again, and then somebody else retaliating. There's got to be something that either we can do or something that I've got to know more about. And once you start thinking like that, that'll begin the process of you I guess, forget what it's called, but it's like just unwinding all the knowledge that you've learned about racism and what that means to you. And so for me, that's one of the biggest things about this whole situation these last few weeks, and even with the whole shooting and stuff like that. It's just trying to understand people from another point of view and reading the history about them. Like, literally, don't just jump into European history all day, every day. That's great. I'm not saying European history is not great. I'm just saying, like, African American history, Latin American history, Chinese history, how they got over here. There's even Eastern Europeans, because they originally weren't white either. You know what I'm saying? Like when they came over here from Ellis Island, they weren't white because they didn't own land.
Native history.
Yeah, native history. The big one, actually. The one that actually mattered. I mean, even compared to me, I'm not trying to compare tragedy, issues.
It never works to compare oppression.
It never does. But like the native one for me, I always feel like every time I read anything about their history, I'm just like, man, okay. It takes toll on me because I'm like, I mean, it's one thing to be brought to the land. It's another thing when your land gets taken over. Like, I mean, it happened to Africa later on, but I wasn't there. I wasn't there, obviously. But yeah, she wasn't there either. But it was just, because like I don't see too many Native people anymore. That's what I'm saying. And so for me, that's
if you do, they're also integrating to white people.
Exactly. So I see black people. I see, I can see, my own, and I see other people of color, but Native. I think I'm seeing like one, two, like out and about. Maybe I'm Native. I don't know. Maybe that's problematic. What I just said.
I'm Native, but I'm a quarter.
Yeah.
Lisa is Native.
That's right, it's Lisa.
I know other people with varying amounts of Native heritage, but it's like, and sometimes it's like you can't even tell looking.
Yeah.
There's not many, but we're not talking about them.
Yeah.
We're talking about.
Yeah. I guess that'd be like another video, but it's
maybe
like
someday.
It's like next time on. Okay, no, but but yeah, it's just so many issues to tackle. Just from cis black people's perspective, like that's we're not even talking about trans yet, and so I guess when we get to the trans issue now, it's even more serious because I think it's 14 deaths already this year, and
I stopped looking. I have stopped looking.
Oh yeah, because I mean it pops up on my Facebook feed. So
it's triggering.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It is. Yeah, I mean, but it's definitely more triggering when 9 of them are black trans. So, and then 2 of them are gender fluid, and then 7 of them are black trans women. So, for me, that's the problem with. That's the issue with me coming out because, well, I'm on YouTube, so that's what's up. So, hey, it's me. I'm trans.
Voluntarily, you're very aware, evidently.
I'll be at your house tomorrow because I'm just kidding. No, but let me in. Okay.
Whose house? Oh my.
Just in case goes down when I get home. No, but
this will be funny to tell you later. So
okay, but yeah. So when you get to the intersections of black and trans, it's and women, it just feels like there's 3 ways to be discriminated against or killed, or and so there's 3 times the danger of being you and trying to express yourself. Because it's already hard enough to express yourself as a black person. It's already hard enough for women to really express themselves because, if you're too aggressive, then, you're like a bitch. And that's not.
Being a black woman.
Being a black woman, understand. And then, if you're too, Asian women get the label of being too docile, too, sensitive.
And Latinx women are like ball busters. Apparently.
And cut you and all that. And I'm like, or they're over sexualized.
That too. It's either one or the
We're
other.
both over sexualized, actually. To be honest with you.
You gotta say that right. It's not like recline.
That was your fault. You're like,
wow.
You were like, touchdown. Yeah, so there's all these other issues with just being a woman, but then being trans as well, and the hatred we still get, just for being trans. So, it just blocks the large amount of freedom to express yourself and to be who you really want to be. And for me, that's the most hurtful thing. I remember, I think it was Devin trying to get that job at the abortion clinic.
I think you might need to project a little bit.
Oh, I need to project? So, yeah! So Devin, is that loud enough? No? We'll go?
Yeah, you're just,
okay.
There's a little thing on the side.
Oh, the level?
Yeah.
Levels. Wait, okay, wait, we're right? Yeah, alright.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, we're good, yeah. Alright, so...
Sorry, I know we've had a little bit of audio issue through the video, but I think people still understood a good part.
Oh, okay. Audio issues. Alright. This summer we have audio. Okay. No, what was I talking about?
Devin.
Oh yeah, Devin the abortion. So, our friend Devin, they didn't get the job at the abortion clinic because they were, the way they look, I guess, is presented as male. I don't know how to say that.
They don't present as male, but they were
presented
assumed,
to them. Yeah,
they were assumed to be male.
Assumed to be male. And so, but when they tried to explain that they were trans, they still didn't get any opportunity to speak to the person who was supposed to, that had their job application. And, we know Devin. Devin's a really good person and a really, a good worker, I would think. I don't know, I haven't seen them work, but I bet, put them at the job and, they would be able to succeed. And that's what sucks, is the stuff like that type of job discrimination, housing discrimination, and just discrimination on the streets for just being trans. Like, that type of stuff stifles you as a creator, or it stifles you as just maybe wanting to just get a blue collar job. Like, that type of stuff, for me, hurts me the worst because, like, you're trying to better your life and trying to succeed in what you want to do for your life, and you're following your dreams, and you can't do that because there's all these discriminations in the way, and and every door that you try to go through or whatever they slammed in your face, it's heartbreaking, and it's disheartening. And so, like for me right now, like I'm trying to apply for stuff and I'm not getting it. Now it's not because I'm trans, it's just because of COVID job market. But it's not the best.
I mean, okay, so there's no trans discrimination there, but I feel like this is a good point to mention that affirmative action does not necessarily prevent racial job discrimination.
Yeah, that too.
It's intended to.
Yeah, it's
but all it means is that you need another excuse. All it means is that you can't say it's because you're not white, or more specifically, it's because you're black. You can still do it. You just need to make up another reason, which is not difficult for discriminated to do.
Yeah. So
I'm trying to clean up my language.
So that's probably part and parcel why part of the reason why it's difficult for me to get a job as well. So then if you add trans on top of that, it just makes it nearly impossible to even access that type of
things. All intersect.
Yeah, things all intersect right at the same time, and sometimes it's for good, and then. But with this society, most of the time, it doesn't work out, and that really hurts people. It puts people out of homes, and it just makes you desperate, and so that's why you do see some trans women, especially doing sex work, because they have no one to speak up, and people blame what? I didn't know. I know, okay. We find out everything today. No, but, so you go...
It wasn't full service. It was online.
Okay, well, it doesn't...
It's still sex work.
Yeah, it is. So, so it forces women to go into, like, sex work, and then they get, chastised or discriminated for... Not discriminated, well, they're discriminated, but I'm trying to think of the other word for it. You get stick for that, and like without understanding their lives and what they've been through and what got them to that point, or maybe they just want to go in there. You know, you never know. And for me, that should be legalized. To be honest with you, legalized and regulated.
Some women,
some
want
women
to do sex work.
Exactly.
I think there's good reason for it. I should have a video about that one.
Yeah, there you go. Another video for you guys.
I wouldn't mind if there wasn't so much danger there. I mean, I'd probably find that empowering.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, was it like Netherlands or something that does that? That's what I'm saying. Like, red light district, whatever. Yeah, so, like, that's a song by Steve. No. Don't you do that? Alright, we're not doing that. Alright. Roxanne. So, stop, Delia. Stop. So, yeah, like, you know, Roxanne. No, I'm just kidding. But, so, you know, it just, these avenues are blocked off by, you know, society, and it really gets you in a situation where you don't really have much to go on or nowhere to go. And that, for me, is, you know, as a black trans person, that's really scary that, you know, and that's the scary part about me, you know, thinking about coming out, because, you know, you don't know how your life could change by doing that, either for the good or for the better. Usually, it can be for the good, obviously, because, you know, you've come out, now you're free, you express yourself a little more. But society, on the other hand, now, you know, knows who you are, and in turn can, you know, block every avenue to success for you. And so, it's definitely a double-edged sword, and like a lot of trans people have had to deal with, and it's terrible. And I wish that we had more, you know, discrimination, anti-discrimination laws. Some job businesses do it, like my job actually has it, but even if there is an anti-discrimination policy by your job, that doesn't mean that like your other employees won't do stuff, you know, side stuff, you know, stuff that subtle stuff to get under your skin or to try to bless you. But so anyway, they get under your skin, you know, or try to, you know, basically get you out of there because you are something that they can't handle or they can't stand, right? And they try to, like, I don't know what, for example, I'm trying to think of something, but just to make your life working there a living hell, you know, in a way, and not try to really understand who you are, even though your boss and your business may be anti-discriminatory, the people there are not, you know, and so, or they could not be, and it's just difficult to kind of balance that out. So, but yeah, I think those are some of the situations we talked about. Any questions? No.
No, I feel it. I mean, you're covering things very thoroughly. You know, like I said, this is for you to express.
Yeah, I'm trying to do more stuff.
I would say, you know, because I mean, I feel like you've done really good. I mean, you've gotten out, you've unpacked a lot, not only to do with, you know, what it's like for you as a black person, but what it's like for you as a demigender trans person. But so I guess like we should probably wrap it up in a minute. I've got just a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
For me. First of which being, what is your advice directly for black people who are feeling overwhelmed and trying to cope with everything that's going on?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways of self-care. I would try to think like maybe your favorite music artist, or artists, or, you know, randomly just go to some music genre on Spotify, click or something, you know, in that way for music purposes. And sometimes, or maybe easy listening or whatever it takes in that way. If you, like me, for me, like I do yoga, it's very good for me. You kind of stay centered, and you have to. Yoga is not the point of yoga is not all the moves and stuff like that. It's really about staying in the moment and breathing and having that You know, because yoga is similar to life. Actually, it's like life. Actually, exactly because there's easy poses and there's hard poses. But the difference, but the main consistent thing about it is your breath. And so every time you do a pose, you have to breathe in and out. You know, and you go through an easy pose. Yeah, it's easy. I can do this. And then you go through a harder pose, and your body's shaking a little bit, and you're mentally like, oh, why am I here? Why are we still in this? You know, but that's kind of like real life. Like they made some easy points in your life and maybe some medium points, but there's some, you know, there's some harder points in your life, and the main thing that's consistent is you. Actually, you're the main consistent thing, and how you react to those situations is the consistent thing. Or the thing that will shape the very nature of what happens in your life. So in yoga, how you handle each pose and how you breathe in and breathe out, you know, is how you're going to handle um, that pose. You know, no matter how easy it is to you, or no matter how hard it is to you, if you, you know, you listen to your body and you take upon yourself to breathe and hold the pose as much as you can, or sometimes it is too hard. Sometimes you gotta fall back and you gotta go like, you know what? I'm not gonna do that. Body can't do that. And there's some situations where you're like, that's not for me. I'm not gonna do that. Like I'm not gonna watch that video. I'm not gonna be a part of that. I'm not gonna go to something that may be triggering. Even if it is a protest or something that it may be too much. And so hey, just scale back and Netflix or chill. You know. Another thing you can do is try to think of self-care and stuff.
It's one thing everyone
Yeah.
point out is self-care.
So yeah,
It can't be stressed.
it can't be stressed enough. Like I'm a proponent of self-care. I wish I had a business for self-care just for that. Like use all types of self-care. Another thing is if you like video games, like obviously Pokemon Go, we're all playing it. For me, that was actually the one thing that came out that helped me actually with self-care because at the time that both shootings happened, you know, I was so devastated. And another thing I forgot to mention too is, I guess this is going right to self-care, is, you know, I'm the type of person who helps out everybody, you know, and try to listen to everybody's concerns and problems and, you know, and tries to be the counselor almost in a way, or like a semi-counselor, healer person. But sometimes you need that help. And sometimes you need that assistance and guidance. And so on Facebook, I think it was after the second shooting, you know, I think on Facebook, I said, I can't do it. I can't do Facebook today. I can't, you know, just be on because literally every other post was about the second shooting. It was about this Philando Castillo, or I can't remember his name. But every other post, it was like something post, and it was just like, it's too much. It's too much for me to handle. You know, I was glad I kind of went to work that day because I had something to take my mind off of it. But it was even kind of hard even with that because people were talking about it at work, you know, and especially somebody in the shuttle that I was driving, they talked about it, and I'm like, oh, did you see the guy? You know, he got shot by the police. It was a bloodbath, and I was just like, you know, I wanted to like stop the car, go behind, and then like, you know, throw him out the car like Jazzy Jeff style, and I was just like, get the fuck out my, you know, excuse me, get the heck out of my car. So
it's just it's such a huge example of how like to so many white people.
Yeah, it was a white guy saying that. So.
Seeing like level of inhumanity and brutality, violence towards a black person is just like it seems that it's like watching a movie for them. It's like it's entertainment.
Exactly.
And it's sick.
Yeah.
This is why we say Black Lives Matter.
Exactly. Yeah, so, you know, you hear stuff like that, and, you know, people at work talking about it and stuff like that. So, you know, it just was hard to work that day, it really was. And I was so glad that all my friends on Facebook were either, they posted, they commented on that post that I made about not being able to just do Facebook that day. And then there are people like, you know, Devin and Chris and the rest of them who were, you know, kind of on the attack. They didn't post on the post, but, I mean, they didn't comment on the post, but they were on, their attack about, Black Lives Matter, remembering that, and then trying to, either memes and articles and stuff like that. And that really helped me because, you feel like sometimes you're in these situations and you feel like the only one. You really do. You feel like you feel lonely. You feel, you feel so bad about yourself and you don't know what to do. And you post something like, I can't do Facebook anymore, or I can't, go on there. And then when you have all your friends come to your aid, like you do for them, it's just so amazing to see that because you feel like there is hope for this world, when you can have your friends and family come together, or in my case, my friends come together. Well, they are my family, actually, be real good. Same. Yeah, there you go. So there are my family to me. And so when they came together like that to give me, to give me, I forget what you call it, but just guidance and to give me console me. That's what I want to say. Console me and come together like that. I think it, it really touched me. It really did because it was just so important to have that because for the other times that other shootings happened, I would be on the old Facebook I had, and you would see it from both sides. You would see black people talking about Black Lives Matter, and then I had my friends on there who were like, "Let's find out all the facts first, and let's really see." And I was just like, "Oh my God, man!" And back then I didn't really say anything because I was just like, "All right, let's see the fact." You know what I'm saying? You just have to kind of. There's so much problematic things. Looking back at it now, it's so problematic. But back then, it was like, okay, well, let's actually see the facts. And I'm just like, well, let's see. But now I'm like, no, let's not see.
Yeah,
let's
because I mean, basically, it's like black victims of police brutality are considered to be guilty until proven innocent.
Exactly.
And that's not what it's supposed to be.
No, it's not. So, so when you see all that, so you have people that come together for you, that people from all different races and all different, backgrounds and gender identities and sexual orientations come to, to your aid. It's just, that this world, especially America, can be better. We have the people here to make this country what, people think it can really be. And so, hopefully in the future, we'll be able to do more, like stuff like that, or just, have these situations begin to lessen, as we all become more educated through the internet and, understanding each other, via text or email or, Facebook or whatever. And then I'm trying to think of more ways to self-care. Like if you have a hobby or you have a sport you play, I remember this was from like back in the day, like PSAs from like cartoons and stuff, like G.I. Joe, and stuff like that. But if let's say you like kickboxing, go do something like that, or if you play basketball, or if you soccer like I do, I love soccer, or football, like they call it overseas in Latin America. Or if you like the draw, you like you make music, I would love to be a DJ, but if you especially if you're a creative person, I think everybody's creative in their own way, but if you're in the arts and stuff like that, and you were very affected by this, it is definitely time to pick up a pencil and pick up a guitar, or pick up your laptop or whatever, and draw something, create something, or spray can if you're a graffiti artist or whatever. Just to let that energy out, let that emotion that you feel for the situation and for all the situations that have happened recently, let it out and on whatever canvas or on whatever you do. Even if you're not a creative person or not in that realm. You know, there's other things you can do that you do normally, or your whole hobbies or whatever. If you're playing video games or something like that, you know, just let that be the thing that helps you begin your coping process. Um, because you know it's devastating to see these again and again and again. And as a black trans person, it's hard to see it from both ends. And what I mean by both ends is it's hard to see cis black people dying, and then you see your trans black people dying, and you're just you're caught in this middle area where both sides are dying, and it's really tough to see all these people in front of you dying and you having to live on and try to um, keep on, and that's really tough on everybody. Everybody in the black community, especially queer black people. It's just really tough to see both sides of your respective communities die, and having to try to just live day to day, thinking that maybe this is my turn. Maybe today would be my day when this happens to me. And so, what I say to that is like, I'm not gonna say those 4 letters, but like, live your life. Like, live it just as much as I know there's restrictions, I know there's discrimination. We just talked about that, but yeah, those 4 letters, you know what I mean? Goddamn. Okay, so anyway, yeah. They posted that so much. I mean, it's the truth, but it's just like it got said so much.
I mean, depending on your spirituality, it may not be. Go on.
I'm just kidding. No, but I mean, it. Just live your life to the fullest. As much as you can. Like, what you can do every day to build what you're doing every day should be the building blocks to where you want to be. And I think along the way, as we've seen with the gay community, like Pulse Withstanding, we've seen them have advancements, and we've seen them be able to achieve, gay marriage, even though, sadly, especially in the state of Florida, we still have a problem if they still get fired from the jobs. So that's, but things are, it's a slow process, and I hate that. I wish it was a faster process. I wish tomorrow, we can have, everything fixed and arranged and everybody happy, but that's not the way. I'm totally idealistic person, totally. I'm about that life, idealistic life. But it's also good to know. It's also good to have people around you who are realistic, so it helps you keep you a little to know what's actually happening. But at the same time, you bring your idealism into their lives to make them hope that something better will happen. Because a lot of times, people love to be realistic all the time, but the bad thing about being realistic all the time is you really never see what's further ahead of you, right? I think there's a saying in soccer, we say, like, on the field, if you can see short, if you see, I forgot how it goes. If you see short, you just see short. But if you can see long, you see long and you see short. You know what I mean? So what it means is, like, if you just look at what's happening right now, then it's great because you're in the moment, but you're not seeing what's ahead. There's not a vision for what you want to do ahead. So if you can see the vision and you can see where you are, then you know how far you need to go to get to where your vision is. You see what I mean? So that's one thing I think you can do for self-care, is to actually take it upon yourself to now think, like, yo, I need to really handle whatever I want to do with my life, because I don't know when I'm going to go, right? I don't know when it's going to be my turn to go, either unfortunately by police violence or, because I'm trans and I'm in a date situation and I either disclose or didn't disclose, and that's a whole other conversation. But which I felt like on the fence about, but I think after hearing Delia and Catherine, I think you need to disclose. I don't really believe you don't really need to, because it's not, unless you're like on what we're on right now, then maybe then. But like in the beginning, no, you don't. You're like in the beginning of the date. immediately tell them that, but they need to know you first and get to know who you are, right? Because once they hear that, they might not, be willing to date you. But yeah, so or yeah, and that goes to another thing. If you have a loved one, you need to lean on them in these times, especially if you got a relationship or something like that. It's very, it's the thing to do. Just have them console you, have them be there for you, and just just use them as they're supposed to be in this case. So they're supposed to be the thing to lean on in these times, these tough times, especially if they're from a different race or culture or whatever, because then that'll help them understand your situation more, because how hurt you are from it, and hopefully they'll be doing the right things to console you. So I'm trying to think of more self-care things, but I don't think I can think of
Okay. So I had one more question for you,
Okay.
and that is, if you could say one thing to people who you feel are not necessarily or willingly and knowingly anti-black, but who are ignorant and are feeling like threatened by Black Lives Matter and chanting back All Lives Matter, what would you say to them?
It's a difficult one. I guess the thing I would say to them is to, I think we talked about this, just to take the step back and try to understand it. We understand it from your point of view. We all understand All Lives Matter. That's why we are chanting Black Lives Matter, actually, because our lives don't really matter. that's the thing that's the thing I would start to say to them, because I'm like, that's why we're here. We're not here to say that our lives, don't matter. Our lives matter more than yours. We're not here to say that, we're more important than you. We need more than you. We're greater than you. We're not here to say that. We're here to say that there's an injustice that's been going on since, to keep it real with you, since we got off the ship. My grandma told me, she told me 2 days ago, she was like, we've been having from...
The ship was part
Yeah, the ship was part of the... Actually, to be real with you, when we left Africa, that was part of the injustice. So, but I mean... since the beginning, the injustice has been here, and, we've been fighting white supremacy ever since. And for you to say all lives matter in front of people who have been, for the last 400 years, and I'm being kind, 400 years, been fighting the very thing that you are standing up for, which is white supremacy in this case, by saying all lives matter, is sad. It's really sad. It's really unfortunate that you're not, seeing it from, you're not looking at it, from a historical standpoint. You're not looking at it from, the point of, people who have been through this struggle. To really sit down and think why are these people saying this? Why are these people have been saying? I mean, because for example, Black Lives Matter is the example of, and it's not new that black people have said that. During the Civil Rights Movement, there was these signs that used to say, "I am man and I am woman," which is basically Black Lives Matter before the hashtag. Excuse me. Because their lives in the 60s, 40, all throughout, let's keep it real, throughout, have not mattered. And so, when black people back in those days actually, excuse me, have actually, said and stood up for something, they've said our lives don't matter because, we were 3/5 of a person, right? That's not even a person. So how can we matter if we're not? We're just.
And there was a fight to even get to that.
Exactly.
There was a compromise.
Yeah, there was a compromise to get to that, and then there was a whole war. to even set us free, right? Um, economy was stagnant in the South, but because that's a whole other story why the North actually really part of the reason why the North fought the South just was slavery and economics as well, but which they don't tell you, but and then they also don't tell you the North had slaves as well. So so and also the North and the West had like sundown towns where like if you stayed out too late, KKK might come get you or whatever the white supremacy group was. So and Oregon was a prime example of that. So that's why I was like, I don't know if I'm going to Portland anytime soon. But no, I'm just kidding. But Portlandia, I don't know if it's for me. No, but but yeah, so it's just it's from slavery to when we had the two great migrations, the one before the World War One, and then the one during the Great Depression, and we moved to like cities like Memphis and some of the cities in the Upper South, and then like Chicago and Baltimore and places like that, where you do see a large prominent in New York as well, a large prominent among Black people. So and we went up those northern areas thinking that our lives were going to matter up there because those were the people who fought for us during the war. But it turns out to be not so much because we got put into what the Italians call, because it's an Italian word, ghetto. So, we got put there, and that's when the redlining happened, which is basically they drew the red line around Black neighborhoods, saying that they can't leave this area and move to the more affluent white areas, to be able to do the thing I was saying what trans people were trying to do, like succeed in life, like try to do better. Now, we're not saying that they couldn't just better the ghetto, right? That's a good thing that we really should work on, bettering the neighborhoods that lower income people live in general. But the idea was upper mobility to get you in an area where your kids can be in an area where it's not so dangerous, in an area where where your kids are at. Well, really the main thing was better schools and just better areas where you can live and it feels more comfortable. But that was kind of an idea from white supremacy in general, especially with like white flight. When they all left the inner city, they went to the suburbs. So, that's just literally just some of the history of why Black Lives Matter, because we've always been, left in the dust, left behind, and not, and not just not like catered to or anything like that, but just not acknowledged, not respected. And when we do ask for it, then people try to shut us down. Try to think when we do stand up for ourselves, we get, we get hassled, we get, situations with riot police, or, you get, situations online where, people don't want to hear it, and they, pulling yourself by your bootstraps and all that stuff, and not understand, like, we don't have bootstraps to begin with, nevertheless the boot. You know what I'm saying? So, goodbye. Sorry. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, so, it's just trying to understand that, like, we don't have the boots to walk to you, to even protest to, we're on our bare feet trying to tell you, like, this is the situation that's happening to us, and we need you to understand that so we can all, as a society, be better. And that is the main point. It's like you help one part of society, that helps everybody, because you never know helping out somebody from impoverished, is that right? Impoverished area, or just a person from another race out. You never know what that person now feels like they should do. There's just some of these commercials you see on TV where one person helps out one person, and that person feels compelled to help out that person, So that it's those. It's for me, I love random acts of kindness. I love that stuff. I love when people just go like, I'm gonna help that person right there, and don't think, it's not like a planned thing. It's just subconsciously, like, I feel bad for that person or whatever. That person needs help. I need to help them. And so when you do stuff like that, especially for children, in black communities, like a lot of the children, you know, will go on now to become things that may help this community out. It may help the world. You never know. Like, oh, we put more money into this inner city school, and then we put more money into like the science area, for example, or STEM, or wherever. We put more money into that area. Now you got kids who are like, you know what? Maybe I'm internalized racism here, but I'm not gonna play. I mean, I play sports, but it's not my thing. But you know what? Like particle physics is, or like aerodynamics is. I like cars, or whatever, or I want to be an astronaut now. I like that type of stuff, right? When you open people's minds up and you give them more of an opportunity, you might see more Neil deGrasse Tysons, right? You might see that. You might see, another Barack Obama, right? You might see that, maybe a better version, but that's a whole other. But it wasn't really. It's complicated with him. But anyway, like my relationship with him is complicated, very, very complicated. But you might see more of that. You might see more black people in more advanced positions because you gave that hand. You gave that opportunity to. They don't have to just rely on like, oh, I just want to play football and then maybe help our community out that way. They can be like, man, I can become a doctor now. Like I have the tools to become these things. And then that's the thing that people don't think of either, because once you've done that, you give them opportunities and you better their lives, or our lives in this case. You better our lives in this case. Those kids are off the street, right? Those kids are not in the situations that get them killed, right? Or the higher percentage chance, right, of getting them killed, not only by gang violence, but by by police in controversial, very controversial gun on black gun situations, right? So it's that thing to understand, I think, from a perspective, and that's what I'm saying with trans people as well. If you give opportunities to trans people or queer people of color, especially, it opens the doors for us to make things or invent things. Like what I feel bad for is, all the people in the past who were blocked to go to college or blocked to become something, and they had to work at like a minimum wage job, or what would a minimum wage job be, or a blue collar job. And no offense to the blue collar jobs. I mean, obviously, those jobs are the building blocks of this country, and really the things you need. Oh, my toilet. Oh, I need a plumber, right? So, those. I'm not hating on them, but what I am saying is the people that wanted to go to more of a creative field, or a field that maybe has their mind, use their mind in a different way, and maybe create or invent something. Those people were blocked by doing that because of white supremacy and racist sentiment, and not being able to advance. And that's just not black people. It was queer people of color, white women. A lot of people were not able to do some things because they were not allowed to. They're not allowed to get to that level of that business. There was a glass ceiling for some people, and so trying to understand that today is the greatest thing of all. I think for whatever I would tell people who say all lives matter, because if you're really about that all lives matter, you would let in Syrian refugees. You never know. I mean, Steve Jobs was Syrian, so you know what I'm saying? People have Apple iPhones. If they didn't let Syrian refugees in, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just saying. So, you don't let some people in, or you don't let people have the opportunities because of your bias and racial sentiment. Those are people who could have created things that could better our society as a whole. Like, what I'm saying? I almost wish there was a movie made, like, if they would just go back and go like, well, let's say after slavery ended, they just allow black people to be free and not have any racial whatever, or just people of color in general all over the place. And they said, we're not going to legalize marijuana. We're just going to legalize all drugs and regulate it. But at the same time, we're just going to allow people to have the same allowed to vote and have the same land ownership in 1865. Let's just see what happens, and then you may see like the Jetsons. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Like no, but you might see that world, or you might see someone close to it. We might have had a flying car by now, because somebody's creative juices was there, and they could do something, but they didn't have the opportunity to. So, um, um, but yeah, so for me, that's what I would say about to all lives matter, because it's just so important to understand that justice and equity and justice are very important to people, because seeing that seeing your brothers and sisters die, cis brothers and sisters die, it's heartbreaking, and seeing trans sisters and brothers die, and non-binary, they die, and it's just heartbreaking, and you just want to see the people who did it, be reprimanded for it and go to jail, and not be, if they get killed, unfortunate, right? I'd rather see them in jail than be killed, because I feel like that's kind of an easy way out. But, I feel like for them, I just want people to understand that if that was your son, if that was your daughter, if that was, your child or brother, sister, whatever, you would want that same justice. You would want that, and you would want everybody to be on your side on that, because you would see, like, I see, I see that this is just, a terrible injustice, and I really want people to see what's going on and fight for me in this time of need, because, like, I feel so bad for the parents, and I feel so bad for all the police officers that got shot and killed as well, and all their families, because it's just it's just so much grieving that's been going on now, and I just it hurts me to my heart. But where we start at is looking at the root cause of all of it, which is white supremacy, and we really look at, as a country, how much has that affected us as a whole, and start from there. Because once you start from there, you'll start to unravel what it is that makes this country what it is today. Some of the good things and a lot of the bad things, right? And it's it's just something to really look at, and then just break it down piece by piece, and then once then you'll understand, like, oh, that's why Black Lives Matter, because I see now that how deep-seated white supremacy is, like how far we have gone with that, and how much it not only affects people of color, but how much it affects white men, how much it affects your thought process every day, about the people around you, what you think, how you react to them, you know what I'm saying? So, like, it affects you too. It's like misogyny. It doesn't just affect women, it affects men too, because men get called, like, oh, you're a pussy, you throw like a girl's, like, girls throw sometimes better than guys, a lot of times sometimes better, what I'm saying? So, why would you say that? Why would you degrade women to degrade a man, right? And it's the same thing, like, why would you're degrading yourself as a white person, like degrading a black person. So you're doing it onto yourself, as well as doing it onto the people that you are discriminating against or being racist against. So, it does all come back to you in a way, and that goes back to that uneasiness that I was talking about, and
Maybe Kelly ordered pizza or something.
Please order pizza. I need the pizza in my life.
There's pizza. You can have pizza.
Yes! No, but go back. So, I think that's what, I think that's what it is with white supremacy. It's about all of us, because you included all of us in your supremacy. So it's going to take all of us together to combat white supremacy. It's all of us. It's almost like a let us help you. You know what I'm saying? To combat the biased opinions and the biased worldview that you have about your surroundings. Because that's what Black Lives Matter is. It's like, hey, we're breaking that white supremacist thought mindset in your head that's been implanted since you were young, and you got caught within all this media.
The urge to chant "All Lives Matter" as a response to Black Lives Matter shows that mentality.
Exactly. so like that's why we're saying Black Lives Matter, because we're saying that to come back, you're very, we're trying to get into your head that like there are more things, there are other things to think about than just what white supremacy has taught you, and just what white supremacy is giving you to this point. Because it's easy to just, like, and that's the thing with the police too, like it's easy to just take off the uniform. I can't take off this thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a lizard. Not an alien. No, I'm just kidding. But, no, but I'm not, I can't take this off. I can never take this off to the day I die. But you can easily just, the blue suit and be done with it. Though I'm not saying their job isn't easy. I mean, isn't hard. What I am saying is, you as a cop and people who like have to understand that like your situation, you can walk away from the situation. You can kind of just be like, I'm over here and I don't have to worry about that. Whereas the rest of us, other people included, have to deal with the fallout from what you did. And so that's why Black Lives Matter is here. That's why, like, I'm a man. That's why, I think, the people the abolitionists who protested back then, back in the day, even though some of them were questionable. That's beside the point. Point is, they, this is, so and that's another thing. When you see all these protests throughout the decades, there's a reason for it. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason why all these protests happen.
They don't just happen for nothing.
Exactly. They don't just happen for nothing. And we're having another one, which for me shows me that white supremacy still exists because like we're still combating it today. So it would be one thing if it was like, oh, it's over, why are we still here? No, it's another thing to be like, there's been fight after fight, riot after riot, people, talking and talking, and having these conversations again and again, and in these groups like the NAACP, and I think the Latinx people have one, and a bunch of others, where I think there's one for you, and I think there's a Native one, but there's a bunch. There's a bunch of different groups to combat usually what it is white supremacy, and to be included and to make the world, or make America in this case, more inclusive. So, I think for that, that's what we need to I think that's what All Lives Matter people who speak that and who post that memes and whatever need to understand. And so I think once they begin to break down the pieces of white supremacy in their heads, and why they think this way, why they go that route, why they feel like all lives matter, I think they'll begin to realize that, like, wait a minute, my life matters more than theirs too. Why is that? Why would I get the benefit of it as a white woman, this black woman, in this situation? And why is that? So once you start to ask those questions, because you can look, there's case by case situations of when a black person does something, or a Latinx person does something, and then when a white person does something, the case is different. The situation is similar, but the outcome is different. So why is that? So once you start looking at that type of stuff, you realize that Black lives, all lives matter. I think they're saying this now. It's like all lives matter when Black lives do. As well, I guess. As once we get Black lives matter up to the level where our lives matter, or up to the level where at the same level as white people's lives matter, then we can kind of have that dialogue and discussion about what. I'm trying to think of the words for it. I guess just we'll be in a more equal playing field and be able to actually so that wasn't it for me.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything else at all that you'd like to add?
I'm trying to think now. I guess just for anybody that is, wanting to do something or wanting to combat this. I would say, if you want to start, using Facebook, not just as a site, just look at the latest news or whatever, but start a group. If you have some few friends or whatever, and you wanna, like Haley, she started a black physical safe haven, which is very good. Like if you're a black person, or a black trans person, if you want to start a group specifically for black trans people, or anybody or everybody, or who wants to start a group in their Facebook or wherever, and just have these conversations. Just even bring people in who you may think are problematic. Like bring them in so that question of like all lives matter comes up, then you can have that discussion with them and break it down for them, and hopefully they begin to understand. Because the one thing that I think helps tremendously in these situations, especially with black and trans issues, is when cis people start to understand it and they get it and they take that with them to other places. And so they're in situations with friends who are problematic and they say something racist or out of line or transphobic or homophobic or biphobic or whatever. But they say something.
It's still biphobic.
Oh, okay. Good. Okay. So anything like that, and then your friend can check them, and be like, that's not right. This is, my friend said it's this, or, this is the way that it's said, this is the pronoun, or this is, that's not exactly right. So that's the most important thing, because I feel like if you can make groups and educate people on, what, what is trans and what is being black, these, you could, I think, effectively, be honest with you, save lives. Be honest with you. A lot of times, you don't know who your friends are in situations, maybe, or you don't know random people you may know at work or whatever, and explaining them about what is trans and what is black and in the intersections of all that, can help them understand more. So when they get in situations, they'll be able to explain as well. And I think that spread of information will definitely be able to, help this roll out immediately. I think just that because a lot of people, I think, especially with trans issues, lack of information is just astounding. And I think Devin said it best. You have to meet people where they are, and I think I'm really good at that. I think some people aren't, but you just have to be calm with them. You have to be understanding because they're just learning that. Similar with black issues. I think some people, they only got what they got in school and what they got in media and movies and all forms of media and stuff. And that's why I say representation matters, because you see black people in more movies now, and we're doing more different things now, and so we're more represented. I think the one field we still need to work on is video games, to be honest with you. There's a lack of there's a lack of black men in video games. There's a lack of black women in video games. Yeah,
there's lack of women in video games.
Yeah, that too. And I'm just like, so, so for me, I would love, like, for example, if Overwatch would have a black woman character now. That would have been awesome, but it didn't have one. So, it helps because once you see black people, in this case black people, in more things, doing more things, being in more areas of society, that helps, it helps to cease white supremacy because it helps to see, like, wow, this black person's a scientist in this movie. Wow, this black person's the hero of this story, right? And not in
Star Wars.
Oh yeah, what's his name? I haven't watched that. Oh, I haven't watched Star Wars. Oh shit, broke the internet. Anyways.
What?
I've only watched one. It's been the terrible one though. I worked at a movie theater a long time ago, man. I only watched 3. No. Anyway, it was like, where's Patty Man? She died in your wake. No. Anyway, so it's not my fault I had to build that movie as a projection. But beside the point. Point is, more black representation in stuff helps not only black people to see themselves in different things, it helps them to realize, wow, I can do different things, like make video games, or be a different person or character in a movie or in real life. Like, hey, there's a black this or black that. That may inspire somebody to become what that is because they now see it, right? Rather than you just see them play basketball or sports all the time. No offense to me, I love soccer, but I see there's not a lot of black people in soccer either. So, but I mean, not in America, but in Latin America and Europe, there's a bunch, there's a ton, there's a lot. But in America, there's it's there, it's getting there, especially on the women's side.
The representation really also helps to normalize black people in the minds of non-black society.
Exactly.
Basically, help people to be like to think of people who are black the same way they would think of anyone who's not black. Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. So it helps them to understand, like, wow, this black person's like, especially if you made a character like black that was a smart character. He's not running and jumping and kicking somebody in the chest, even though it's funny and fun to see. But he's actually out-thinking his opponents. He's actually using tactics. He's actually using his brain instead of using his fist, right? And being a rough guy, big, big black, rough, like bouncer like guy who's just gonna, no offense to Vin Rames and all the rest of them, great, but I love Terry Crews, but they're not, they're more of the probably like Denzel Washington type character, where they not only use maybe fighting, but they also use their mind to outthink you. They're out to and whatever, and that's just action movies, but and detective thrillers or mysteries or whatever, maybe have a character that can do that. So so representation is really important, and I think for any creator that is not non-black and they want to put a character that is black in a story, especially if it's a lead role. If you have black friends or you have people like, hey, let me ask you guys, I'm about to make this character. I don't want to make him a stereotype or a cliche, or he or she or they. I don't want to make them that. I want to see what you guys think about this character, and then you go from there. And they'll tell you. They'll tell you if if that character is Uncle Ruckus or if that character is I don't know, a Finn or a Denzel or something like that. A character that's well balanced and around. And still they're dealing with black issues, but they also have more than just that. They're more than that, right? They're more than just a skin, and so so for me, I think just be for black people, I say just keep on going, keep on pushing, keep on trying to do the best you can in this world, and I'm sure things will work out. I know it's tough right now, and it is definitely a rough situation for all black people right now. No matter what part of the culture you are in, or gender identity or sexual orientation, it's pretty rough. But we have been the race who has persevered so much. And if you look at our history, we've done so much. We've made so many advancements where than our predecessors. And I think if the slaves looked at us now, they would be proud. They'd be proud of the people they see who are still fighting for the rights that they didn't have. They didn't. And they would be proud of all that, all the athletes, all the artists, all the blue collar workers, all the black people who have become something in this world. And so I think we need to continue that. So when black children that have in the later 2000s, like 2076 or whatever, or 2100s, you never know, like or maybe in Futurama time, 3000, you never know, like they may look back at. Don't shake your head, I love that. Okay.
No, it was something else.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought it was like, you don't like Futurama?
No, I was just having
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
This laptop is kind of.
But yeah, so like, you know, in the year 3000, you know, they look back at this time and see people who fought and who had been proud of themselves and really tried to make a difference. Now, I had a conversation with Catherine a while back when we actually sat down. I think I took her to East Hill actually, but before then, East Hill laser. But you know, she was like, racism is not going to end in a lifetime. Now, that's true. Like, we're being realistic. Let's just keep it real. I don't think it's going to end in a lifetime. But what I say to that is like, we've got to fight like it is going to end. You know what I mean? Because, you know, I think, like Will Smith said, like, I don't want a plan B because it gets in the way of plan A. Because if you sit there and try to fight, you know, if you fight white supremacy or just fight these issues, and it gets tough and it gets hard and it gets like it is right now, obviously. And a lot of times people will fall back and not, you know, they don't know what to do and they'll just go to plan B. They'll just think, well, we've gone as far as we could. We couldn't do any more, right? No, there's you know, we've always known there's always something more we can do. You've seen that with Martin Luther King. You've seen that with Malcolm X. You've seen that with the Black Panthers. You've seen that with you can even go back to Frederick Douglass. You can go back to Harriet Tubman. They exuded 100 and maybe 10-20% of their energy in trying to end what we're trying to end today. And so, did they do it? No, obviously not. You know, it's sad. You know, you think, you know, I think I saw a video of a white woman she's a grandma, and she married a black man. She has now black grandchildren, black great grandchildren, and so, you know, she was crying for them because she doesn't know, you know, when they get older, are they going to be in similar situations as, you know, the two men that passed away. And she was like, you know, I used to be a hippie. You know, I was in the '60s and stuff, and we thought we combated all this back then. She was like, we didn't, you know, and it was very, you know, it hit me in my heart because I'm like, these people, you know, there's always been people fighting, and so, you know, we have to continue that. And so we have to continue that feeling like we're going to end it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because that means you're exhausting everything. You're putting everything into it. And, you know, you are expressing yourself and doing everything possible to succeed. Even though you may not see the end of the road and you may fall, I want you to give that baton to the next person who's going to carry it. That next young, you know, activist person who was looking up to you the whole time. A lot of people don't know that. Like, people are looking at you, what you're doing, they're looking at what Dilly is doing, and they're looking up to these people. Don't stop that now. I'm not that. So they're looking at these people, you know, and they're really inspired, and they you know, they don't know what to do just yet. And then when you are done with your work, and you can't go any further, you hand them the baton, and they can take it to the next level, whatever that is. I think for non-white people, you know, continue to support us. Continue to know what your privilege is, not only on race issues, but also trans issues, and also if you're a male, obviously female issues as well. And so, and all that intersects. And even if you're trans, you know non-binary issues as well. Because if you're binary trans, just you know, keep on unlearning the privilege, or I guess, that you have. You know what I'm saying? Keep on remembering that you have privilege. That's what I meant to say. Keep learning that you have it. Keep learning that, you know, you have it over them, and this is what I can do with my privilege, like Dilly's doing with me. You know, giving me the floor to speak. That is very, you know, that's really knowing that, like, I'm going to give them a platform to speak, and I'm just going to allow them to have their say and be able to express themselves fully. Like, a lot of people, they don't do this. They don't do what she's doing. And, you know, I was telling her earlier before this, like, I've seen so much on the Dallas situation, and I've seen so much on the cops. And they talk about cops' lives this, cops' lives that, obviously Blue Lives Matter, whatever. But, you know, they're and even Channel 3 News here, they interviewed they were talking to the cops about how they feel about when they approach a car. But I'm like, where's our story about? And maybe they've done it. I'm not sure, but where's our story about what happens when they approach the car? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm especially with the guy in Minnesota. I'm like, he did everything he was supposed to do, and still died. So, for non-white people, I say, like, just continue to help us, continue to help not only cis black people, but trans black people, and all, help everybody as much as you can. And it may be the simplest thing. When people think, like, I gotta do this huge, incredible, like, magical thing, but just simply just saying hello, or saying, like, hey, what can I do to help? Or can I offer you, assistance or whatever?
Smiles,
hugs, snuggles.
And to say something there, friend.
Snuggles are good. Snuggle, but they're... Oh, okay though. So, just affection like that really helps tremendously, because a lot of people, they just want somebody to be there for them, and as long as there's somebody there, they'll continue their fight, for their rights, and as long as you're there to give them that added support. So I think for all non-black, non-trans people, to continue to just help us and continue to speak out for us and continue to keep the platform open. So, I hate to say it, but I feel like this is not obviously the end of these situations with the cops. I don't mean the Dallas situation. I think that situation is like rare more.
Yeah, that's probably over.
Yeah, that's rare to be sniping somebody off the top of a parking lot, I think it was. But but the situations that happen with unarmed black people and police, and the situations that happen with trans people being killed on daily, and hopefully we won't have another situation like Pulse, but with the amount of guns we have in this country, and the amount of people who, I just hope that doesn't happen again. So, but with unarmed black people, that I feel like it's going to happen again. It's going to happen, and so when it does, you need to be around people who are going to support you, who are going to be there for you. For the non-black people, I think, you need to be there for them. That's happened. It happened. Let's, if they need space, they need space. If they don't need space, they need you to be there. Be there. Don't just be like, oh, I'm just going to run in and help like it's a burning building. Be like, hey, what do you need from me? What do you need me to do? That's the same thing with people, because people are going to be anxiety. They have anxiety, they have depression, and things like that in these moments. And it's not good to. And I had to learn that. I had to learn that. I have privilege now. I don't have that level of anxiety or that level of depression. Now, I do get depressed. But I don't have it clinically, right? I have social anxiety to a certain extent, but it's not like as extreme as others. So in these moments, that stuff can come out very hard, very, extreme. And so as a person who is not black or not trans, it's good to, or even if you are trans or black, or both, but definitely if you're non-black or non-trans, it's really good to come out and just say, what do you need from me? What do you want me to come over? What do you, how do you want me to be there for you in a way? Not an exact question, but just like how, because you want me to bring something, you want your favorite food, whatever it takes. Because sometimes it takes
asking is a huge sign of caring and respect.
Exactly, asking is a huge sign. Not just taking it upon yourself to do something, but like, hey, what do you need from me? Do you need me to jump kick somebody off from the bridge? I'm just kidding, no. But what do you need, from me right now? Be there for you right now, where you're screaming and yelling and you're upset at all this, and you need something, something to yell at, or you need people say it happens. You need me to be there to hold you, so whatever it is, like when they need some consoling, whatever, just be there for them, and it makes it so much better for that person, and And especially if they ask for you. That's really important because if they ask for you, that means that you really matter to them in that moment. Either that be a loved one or you're just a friend. And they're like, hey, can you come over? This situation just happened. And I just need somebody. So just be there for each other and love each other. And I think everything will be better. So I think that's it.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much because I mean it's always a privilege to be able to have anything with you on my channel, especially now for I believe the first time to have you live. Love to do it. Love to do it again. There's actually there's going to be quite a few changes coming to my channel. So
really?
Yeah, exciting, right?
Changes.
We're going to do that. Yeah, we know each other pretty well. Like I have friends.
You have, yeah, I know she has friends. Hoodoo.
I'm
a
Oh, I thought you said I have no friends. I was gonna be like, what? Stop that. Alright, so thank you everyone so much for watching. It's so very important that we raise marginalized voices every opportunity we get. You know, even being trans and a woman and pansexual and polyamorous and
that's a lot.
And mentally ill and
that's a lot of your plate, man.
Yeah, and Latinx.
Yeah,
it's like I still thank you. I still have the privilege of at least I'm not black. I mean I'm also not like I actually am very minorly physically disabled, but most people don't even know about that. It's not something you can see very well.
Bionic.
It's that hacking thing I do every now and then.
Oh.
But anyway, so I've still got that privilege of not being black, which makes it my responsibility to do what I can. And that's what I want to encourage everyone to do with this series is to uplift the black voices in your life. If you're someone who has the privilege of not being black, if you're someone who has the platform, having a YouTube channel, a blog, whatever it is, take the opportunity this week while there is so much going on to give the platform over to the black people in your life for just one day, even. We're planning YouTube Blackout, which I don't know if anyone else is going to participate in, but we hope that other YouTubers will join us on Thursday, July 15th at 6 p.m. Central Time in hosting live streams where, just like this, you basically let the black people in your lives have their say with what's going on without speaking over them or for them. Just let them get it out because they're the voices that need to be heard right now. There is a huge amount of anti-black violence going on right now. Not that there hasn't been frequently, but we're just seeing so much that paints it so clearly, and so many people trying to erase it and say that's not real and gaslight the entire black community. And we need to stand together to let people know that we're not going to do that. And you can speak out on your own. And I think we always encourage people. If there's a situation where you can speak out, on behalf of a marginalized group that you have privilege over, if you can speak out, in a positive manner to support them when they're not available to do so or when they're exhausted, please do so. But ideally, if you can, if those people are available, if they're not exhausted, we have had a couple of people who were very excited about this project, but who did end up having to bow out because they were just exhausted by everything that's going on. But as long as people are available and not exhausted, uplift their voices. Start teaching society not to listen to things because a privileged person says to, but to listen to things because the person who is marginalized expresses that they need you to. And I guess that's about it. So
that's it.
Thank you so much, everyone, as always, for watching. Until next time, be yourself.
Yeah, that too. Oh yeah. What?
It's like a Bye, everyone.
What? Y'all need to know. Oh, well.
No, it's waiting for me to confirm it.
Don't confirm. Don't confirm nothing. Don't confirm it.
Okay, do you have anything else to say?
I have nothing else to say.
Alright, well, we'll see you later.
Don't do it! Don't!